Guys, welcome to the last episode of season number 3. I'm very proud of the team here, and thanks to Chris behind the camera actually as well for helping me organize all of this. But I'm really proud that we've achieved another 20 episodes, a weekly episode. So to me, that's kind of just showing another consistency in what we wanted to do, and we'll definitely be back for season number 4. For those of you who's been following and watching the content, please leave any feedback that you may have, or if you find this enjoyable or somehow valuable to you in your day-to-day lives or in your role at work or just generally, I'd love to hear from you to see what are the other things that we can do in season 4 to make sure that we deliver, valuable content, enjoyable one, hopefully entertaining a little bit as well, informative, most importantly, to you guys watching the show. So if I was to think back from season number 1, and some of you may have not even watched some of the earlier episodes, but there's a lot of improvement. So every season, all I wanted to do is just improve one big thing. So season number 1, we had really bad audio. We didn't even have a mic. I was using my phone most of the time recording the things, and audio was kind of a big thing. So I bought a lapel mic, like one of these things. And that's what we end up using in season number 2. And it's such a big improvement from an audio point of view. In season number 3, I think we planned a bit more in terms of content. Obviously having Chris around, editing has turned up a notch as well. And I think that those are the big improvements. It's pretty much content and the editing quality. So if there is anything that you would like to give me in terms of an input for season number 4, I would be super appreciative. Okay, so thanks for tuning in. This episode, I'm gonna wrap it up with pretty much similar type of content as some of the previous later episodes, which is the design sprint. So in this one, I want to talk to you specifically about the tangible outcomes that you actually get out of it if you were to run it with us. And I'm sure some other facilitators would run it differently, but more or less it's probably the same thing. But I'd like to go through the things that you actually get out of this, okay? So before I get into the things that we actually deliver from Relab's perspective, is maybe just to remind you once more what are the main benefits of running a design sprint or participating in a design sprint or implementing a design sprint process in your organizations. So one of the first one is pretty much just real customer feedback. It's real time as well, because you get to see them, their expressions, what are they saying, what are their spontaneous expressions pretty much. So you get real feedback. The next one is clear problem framing. That essentially, I'm trying to put this into context where businesses would have very complex, and the design sprint, by the way, will work really well for complex problems. So generally, products with complex problems comes from businesses, whether it's a startup with a really big idea, or it might be a corporate that's working on a specific product or offering. So through the design sprint, you get this clear problem framing because it's really well structured and it's designed to link from one activity to the other that is super clear, and you've repeated that over and over, and you're thinking about the same goal, same objectives pretty much every single day for 1 week. The next one is about transparency, alignment of vision. One of the common problems when you have a number of stakeholders involved, whether it's an investor, whether it's just different teams, cross-functional teams, or different stakeholders, different departments, it's very important for you to be able to produce something that has an aligned vision for everyone, that it works for every different roles that's involved in the process. So Design Sprint is such a great tool for that, because you get to set the core team and you get to invite experts / senior stakeholders throughout the process. And from that process, because they're involved in it, and I guess involvement is a very important thing in Design Sprint, it needs to be important for everyone, that they're going to give their best in terms of their best and their best of care, of attention, and participate meaningfully. So when that happens, there's a transparency around everyone, that you're able to align the vision because of the process that is so democratic. It kind of leads you into a solution that everyone agrees on. So that's really, really great. The other thing that is very valuable out of a design sprint process is the low effort that you put into it relative to, I guess, the risk that's going to come if you were to do it to develop the product straight away or something like that. So this is a validation process that's been developed by Google Ventures, but it's such a great thing to do. Within that short amount of 1 week time, you get to pretty much see this prototype of yours, and you get to answer and validate business questions very, very quickly without having to do more first. So it's kind of like preventing for problems to happen before it's too late. Therefore, it's low risk, it's very, very high value. And one of the last things I think that is such a key benefit to it is it drives innovation. It creates proactive solutions from the team. It makes the team focus on the things that matters the most, which is what will that user or what will that customer say on day 5 after we prototype and then we user test it. We try to constantly think about this persona, about this user, that ultimately, they are probably the ones that the business wanted to satisfy. So because of the process and how it's been designed and how documentation has been, well structured as part of the 5-day process, everyone's aligned on what really matters, which is that goal for the business and for the customers ultimately. Okay, so those are the benefits that generally proper or a good design sprint process will definitely deliver. So the other thing that I'd really like to talk to you about is what is it that you get when you do it with us here at Relab. So these are the more tangible things. So one of the things that we really pride on in Relab is the level of detail and effort that we put into our prototypes. So when we talk about prototypes, because we're facilitating it and we'll be using our own designers to work on the prototypes, it has a very, I'm not sure how to, because I think people has different versions of what high fidelity means, but our one will look almost like a finished product. It's not designed in Illustrator, or it's not designed in Keynote or PowerPoint. It's actually designed with the tools that we would typically use when we're designing any other digital product. So we actually get into there and we treat it as close as possible to when we're actually designing a real digital product. So to us, it's more than just a facade. It actually has meaningful designs and meaningful usability around it. So we try to do it that way. And with those high fidelity prototypes, you get the working files, whether it's a sketch file or a Figma file or anything else that we use in terms of an asset, that it becomes an important asset for you or for the customers to move on to the next level, whether it's to iterate or whether it's to pass on to someone else, to an internal designer or anything like that, or to pass on to a developer. So that's one of the first things that you'll get. The second one is obviously the recording of the video and audio of the user testing that we would have done on day 5. So you get that as a downloadable video file, but you also get the streaming link that will, if it was streamed, then you'll still have an online link that you can watch, and that will be part of the deliverable to you as well. And the third one, which is as equally important, is the documentation of the user feedback. So the way we structure it usually is, depending on what the product is, but typically you'll have different segments, whether, if I'm thinking about an online site again, it's pretty much, what the homepage is like, or navigation, or product detail page, or whatever it is. So you'll have different segments, and within each segment you'll have user feedbacks, whether it's positive or negative, and then you'll have next step actions or recommendations that's provided by us or created collaboratively with the team, with the sprint team, and also priority levels, whether it's high, medium, low, and again that's decided by the sprint team and the deciders, and an action points whether you do it or you don't do it. So that's one of the other deliverables, which is actionable documentation of feedback from the users itself. So those are the things that will be part of the deliverables, but other than that, I guess ultimately and generally speaking from a design sprint process, what you get as a user, not as a user, but as the business implementing this process, is that you're able to validate business questions very quickly, all within just 1 week time. But most of the feedback that I get was that customers couldn't believe that there's so much work that was done within just that 1 week. And I think that's all credits to the process and how it has been designed by Google Ventures, because it's well structured. I think businesses could get such a high value out of it, but at a low risk as well, relative to what they could have spent if they were not to do it. Okay, so anyway, that's my spiel on this episode. But like I said, this is the last episode of season 3. Hope you've been enjoying it so far, and thanks for following us, and also sharing some of our content to people that you know would benefit from it. But otherwise, I'll be back very, very soon, and hopefully there'll be more exciting things in season number 4. Okay, thank you guys.